Hello there. This is Jillian with DC Weddings with Jillian. Welcome. Today, if you are thinking of a multicultural wedding, we have just the person for you to give you some tips and tricks on planning a multicultural wedding. If you're not planning a multicultural weddings, there's some nuggets in here for you as well concerning controlling your guest count and how you should do that. So please stay tuned for Cheryl Yiadom of Lotus Events Management. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I have with me here today on this beautiful spring afternoon Cheryl Yiadom of Lotus Event Management. I am excited to have Cheryl with us because she's going to share with us a lot about multicultural weddings. So, if you are from another culture, marrying someone from another culture, just love another culture, you might find this interview very interesting. So, Cheryl, welcome.
Thank you, Jillian. I'm so happy to be here.
And we are happy to have you. So, tell us, I'm going to jump right in. Multicultural. What is
Yes.
your connection to multicultural events?
Yes. So a lot of people don't realize, but I'm actually Ghanaian American, meaning that I was born and raised in America, specifically Washington, D.C. proper. I was born there. But my parents are West African from Ghana, West Africa, both of them. And so growing up, even though I'm American in America, growing up, I always ate Ghanaian food, listened to Ghanaian music, went to Ghanaian functions. So I'm very African as well. And we always celebrated our culture, right? We have these huge celebrations with our kente cloth and the different tribes celebrating different milestones. And so, as I grew up and I decided to get into event and wedding planning, I gravitated towards events like that were multicultural, that incorporated other people's cultures into their, wedding to make sure that it represented them properly. And that's really important to us. So that's what multicultural means to me.
Fantastic. And now tell me, what makes a multicultural event different from, I would say, traditional event?
Oh, traditional American? What do you
Yes.
mean?
Yes,
Okay.
traditional American events that we do that very tailored, most people
Mhm.
are doing the same things. And of course, you personalize your wedding, but it has a similar format.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
doing a multicultural event, what differences might there be, or maybe even what similarities? They may be more similar than we realize.
Yeah, there are some similarities, but there are definitely distinct differences. One being the guest count. For my African weddings, sometimes even Caribbean and Asian weddings, but specifically the African weddings, the guest count is much higher. Like when I say higher, I mean over 300 people and up. So that's one of the biggest differences. You don't have an event and it's just family. It's family and your friends. It's the whole community. So it's a much larger scale event, right? And then the time frame tends to be longer, right? We tend to go longer. I think American weddings average 4 hours, maybe sometimes
Yes.
5. We can go 6 hours easily. We will pay for extra time for our celebrations. Sometimes it's multiple days, when you get to that, South Asian type wedding, like it goes multiple days. So it just depends, but it's just very vibrant, very fun, but it definitely incorporates more of the culture too.
Fantastic. This is very fascinating to me because as Caribbean caterers, we do lots of multicultural events. So, this is right up our alley. Um,
Yes.
Now, one of the things we find, and I know
Mhm.
that we depend on our coordinators to help us along with, is that when you are mixing cultures, then there
Mhm.
are some things that have to happen, don't have to happen, and then to sort of balance the two cultures. So tell me how you would go about helping your bridegroom and all the other vendors navigate the differences that we may have to do for this event.
Well, first and foremost, I talk to the clients and I talk to, their families. What's your expectation here? What are you looking to do? But even if I'm familiar with the client and their culture, right? I don't assume anything. I ask them what are their priorities, what's important to them, and then I relay that information to my team and to our fellow vendors so that we're all on the same page. Because on event day, we are one team, right? So we just want to make sure everything's aligned and so that we know what's going on, right? So I might say to a photographer, right, or a videographer, hey, we're going to need you for a long time, the whole day. So we need your entire daily rate, right? Versus 4 hours, 5 hours, because we just make everything clear so that we're on the same page. Catering and all of that, like what's expected. Maybe we have, hors d'oeuvres and then there's some snacks and then you have dinner and then you have like an after dinner snack or something. It's just a lot of different elements that people want to incorporate because they want to feel like maybe they're back home, right? Like when they're back home, they do X, Y, and Z, and they want to be able to do that here. Now, you can't do everything here. We can't stay till 4 a.m. But we can incorporate some of the elements into the celebration. And I want to make sure that we respect the vendors too. So we just explain what we're looking to do, how we want to have it planned out in terms of the timeline and expectations, and then relay that information. And I find when we do that, everyone's pleased and happy at the end. So, and then of course we keep in communication with the entire team.
Fantastic. And so those are things that you mentioned are things that we
Mhm.
find in terms of doing catering,
Yeah.
blending the menus, especially if it's an American and a non-American, to sort of create the kind of menu that would serve everyone, that everybody
Yeah.
can feel, leave the event saying, oh, that was a great meal, not I
Mhm.
couldn't eat half of the food and I didn't recognize half of the food and so on. So we
Yeah.
spend a lot of time talking to both bride and groom about, their likes, their dislikes, their families' likes and dislikes and so on.
Mhm.
And I imagine, having worked with you before, that you are going through some of those strains with your clients and extended clients because I know when you're dealing
Yeah.
with the bride, you also have to deal with mom and dad. You sometimes have to deal with auntie. Can you tell the listener a little more about maybe things that they hadn't thought about in putting together a
Mm.
multicultural event that you would want them to know from the jump that they should be thinking about to make this successful for them?
Yeah, I've found over the last few years, in order to make it successful, like you said, the aunties, they are very important, not just the parents. You have to consider everyone. So I don't assume anything. Like I said before, I'll meet with the clients, I'll ask them a question. Oh, we're not going to do that. I'm like, can we meet with your parents? Can we meet with who else is involved? Sometimes it's a sister. We've had sisters who were very vocal, because the parents lived farther away. So we're like, okay, the sister, okay, let's have her here with technology similar to this Zoom, right? Zoom or Teams or what have you. Let's get on the Zoom. Let's all be on the same page and we ask questions. What's important to you? What's your vision? What's your expectation? And then we might dial it down a bit, right? To make sure it can work. Because,
Mhm.
for example, you have a lot of multicultural weddings where they want to have what we deem the traditional wedding, like the traditional cultural wedding. And then some of them
Yes.
want to have the white wedding, right? The American Westernized wedding. Sometimes they do it 2 separate days. Sometimes they
Yeah.
want to do it the same day. So if we're doing it the same way, that's literally like an 8 to 9 hour day for your guests, literally. So we have to dial it down. We can't be in the traditional portion for 5 hours. It might have to be 2 hours. See, things like that.
Right.
There are compromises that have to happen, but the quality of the overall event is not compromised, right? You still get to have your traditional, incorporate the traditional aspects that you want, right? But it's timed well. And then you get a break, you get cocktail hour, or that break in between for photographs and etc. for food, to take a break, to have some type of refreshment or drink. Then you can continue right to the white if that's what you choose to do. So I'll ask them, okay, are you the client that wants to have separate events like multiple days? Or are you looking to have one day? Do you want to have multiple venues? Is someone expecting it to have it at a family home? What does that look like? What is the square footage of that space? Can we accommodate everyone? What does parking look like for all of these 200, 300 plus people? So these are the type of questions you have to ask, because sometimes you'll meet, clients and their family, and they say, oh, our traditionals are in the home, in West Africa. And I'm like, that's nice. But here, 200, 300 people, it might be difficult to accommodate them, and then you got to think about accessibility and all these things. It might be a better solution to look at a venue, right? Look at caterers that can accommodate your need and what you're looking for. Like you said, caterers who are familiar with that type of cuisine. So, you have to be able to consider all the different factors and then find, like we always like to say, an experienced professional who can assist you with that. And we will hope that we are those experienced professionals.
Absolutely. I found a lot as well where, and it happened in my own family where my niece married, actually, he was Ghanaian as well. And
Oh.
they came down from New York and they had the Ghanaian food and traditional dress the day before. We all got our dresses made with the same fabric from a seamstress in England that we
Ooh.
send our messages to. We all had our heads wrapped and we did the thing. And that was the day before the traditional wedding, which we did at a venue here. So I
Mm-hmm.
get it. And I think people don't necessarily think about all that volume and what it
Oh
means to
yeah.
have two separate events back to back and what that could do in the planning cycle. And as you said,
Yeah,
that's why it takes
absolutely.
a professional like you to help them through that.
Thank
Interesting.
you. Yeah, sometimes it's even the wardrobe. It goes down to the wardrobe, right? Because you'll have, like we had last year, even this year, where the wardrobe is being made in Nigeria, in Ghana, somewhere else. And they're literally bringing that here,
Hmm.
and then some things are being made here. So it's like we have to stay on top of that to make sure, is it
Yes.
completed? Have it completed months in advance so that we
Yes.
don't have any issues on the day of. And sometimes, even with that, you may have some issues and still need to do alterations. So, that planning aspect is so important. You can't wait to the last minute, especially with multicultural.
Exactly. They actually hired a dresser, someone who would make sure
Mm,
everybody's headdress got on okay. And because there were a lot of people who weren't familiar with the
yes.
dress, and the dresses were
Hmm.
coming in from England, and they were coming in
Yes.
from Ghana, and other people were coming in
Yes.
from other places. And we were getting stuff pinned up, sewed up right on us on that
Hmm.
day.
Literally.
Fantastic. And so multicultural weddings for us are fun. They're fun because they're different and the
Hmm.
families are also involved. And you can tell how much of an impact it is for the entire extended family, not just the bride and groom. It is just all over. And so you feel that when you enter the room. You feel that when they do their entrance dance and everybody jumps
Yes.
in and everybody is dancing for like 20 minutes before they
Yes.
can even just walk 100 meters. They're dancing for 20 minutes.
Literally.
Literally, right? And so
Yes.
that just feels so surrounding and everybody's involved, young people, old people.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
so we revere our multicultural weddings greatly. And we
Yes.
know that it is professionals like you with all the many details that
Hmm.
have to happen. So
Yes.
tell me and tell the listener that's
Hmm.
planning a multicultural event, other than
Hmm.
the things you've already said,
Yes.
why Cheryl Yadom? Why Lotus Events? Tell us why.
Well, thank you. First and foremost, it's fun. That's our whole mission. We want to come and plan your event with you, right? We hear you. We hear all your feedback, all your wishes, your dreams, your whole vision. We hear you, but we hear your family. And we plan it with you as if we're you, literally. We are your representative. So we're going to make sure all aspects of your event are planned from A to Z, literally, right? We're going to be at the walkthroughs with you. We're going to be communicating with you frequently. I find often where things fall by the wayside is the lack of communication. We are constantly communicating with our clients, like to the point where they're like, you're really big on communication. Absolutely. Because that's how we ensure excellence, right? And we don't have those hiccups at the end. But we also don't assume anything. We ask a lot of questions, like very detailed questions, like we said, not only from the clients, from their family, right?
Mhm.
From, you know, their closest friends and extended family, even siblings, just to make sure everybody's needs are being heard. And then we decipher that amongst our team, right? And we say, okay, you said this is important. Are you going to do this? Is this not important? Okay, maybe we'll remove this. But we just want to make sure that it's representative of you. Also, we know from experience what's probably going to happen. So, for example, our clients are amazing and they'll tell us, oh, we're just going to have 300 people. That means you're going to have 350 people. We just know that. So we can plan accordingly, right? But if you're not well versed in multicultural or West African or Caribbean or whatever it may be, you may not know that, right? And then on day of, you can run into some challenges. You may not know that it needs to go after 1 a.m. and you need to plan accordingly with your venue, with your caterer to make sure, okay, if we go till 2, what are the fees? What are the charges? Are there any overages? We have full production set up. Can we come in the day before? Can we come in earlier in the day? I had this discussion today with another event professional. You know, I told her about a venue. She's like, oh, that venue can be challenging. I said, oh, don't you worry. We paid for extra time for setup.
Yeah.
She was like, that's
Yeah.
excellent. You know, so those are the type of skills and qualities that we bring to the table that if you're not experienced and well versed in it, you won't be prepared for. You won't even ask those type of questions. And then you get on the day of, and not only is your client stressed, you're stressed, everyone's stressed. We want people to
Yes.
come with positive vibes only, like we say, right? Ready to have fun and celebrate. You are a bride, you are a groom, you are the mother of the bride, you're the father of the bride, et cetera, et cetera. That's your only role today, right? We have
Yes.
designated contacts in the family. We say, who are you designating well in advance? That if there is an issue, a question, a guest that we're not aware of, we can come to this person, someone who is not easily stressed, you know, and just ask the question and have them resolve the matter quickly, or we'll do it as well. But there's key questions we ask so that you don't have to worry about it on event day and you can come and just have a good time because we want to celebrate with you. We want to be applauding and dancing in the background with you and, you know, spraying money you know, for you too. So we want you to have fun. We want you to end the day and say, oh my gosh, that was an amazing day. That was an amazing celebration, right? But in order to get there, we have to have that communication. And I think that's what sets us apart with our clients.
Fabulous. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I have seen that in action with you as well. Let me deal with an elephant that may be in the room. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I hope you don't mind because you
Oh, I
brought
don't
up the
mind.
fact that okay, 300 guests is likely to be 350. And I have
Yes.
brides and couples ask me all the time, what would I do with extra guests? Now, when you're at a hotel or a country club,
Mm-hmm.
you probably can get some tables and chairs set up. You can get, you have a full
Mm-hmm.
kitchen that you can continue producing food because that you're producing.
Yeah.
When you're in an
Yeah.
off-premise situation, which a lot of people like to do because then they can control their environment better. They can get exactly what they want with an
Yes.
off-premise situation, bring in what they want and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do that, then I have to prepare everything from beforehand and bring it
Mm-hmm.
in and reheat it
Mm-hmm.
and get it, right? I have to
Yes.
bring the 300 plates and the 300
Yes.
knives and forks. So when you have
Exactly.
350 guests, I now don't have, people say, well, we're having a buffet, there's going to be more food. The food is more than likely not the issue. It's table
Mm-hmm.
settings, the staff to handle the extra 50 people. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you want water refilled at your table, you're not thinking, oh, there's 50 extra people. They just don't have enough time to get around to me. I only have a certain
Exactly.
amount of staff for 300 people. So, how do
Exactly.
you help a couple navigate knowing what their guest count is and coming close to that on the day of, and not getting surprised with 50 extra people on the day of the wedding.
Yeah, absolutely. I laugh because years ago, and I'm talking about over 10 years ago, right? When I was younger and I was doing this, I learned by experience and by fire, like trial by fire. And, they told me, oh, we're going to have 300. I was like, no, you're going to have more. And they would have literally like 75 people more. So now that I'm wiser and I've been doing this for a longer amount of time, I know for a fact. So I will go to the clients, I will go to the parents. What is your number? Where are we? They will call their guests. I require it. I require it. I'm very respectful because often with multicultural, you're dealing with elders. So I like to be respectful but firm. And I just say, hey, let's put all our cards on the table. I know from experience, you tell me it's 300, it's going to be 350. I need you to tell me by this day, usually 4 to 6 weeks out, where are
Mm-hmm.
we? What's the number? I need you to write it down, write these guest names down seriously, because my people will go just handing out invitations, calling their friends, their neighbors. We can't have that, right? So I say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you have invited guests. Where are we? I've literally had parents and brides and grooms come back to me. Oh, Cheryl, you were right. We're at 340. I'm like, okay, so that means you're at 370. so so it's a constant back and forth. But then on the flip side, I've actually had multicultural clients say, no, we are at a hard 250. And I'm like, are you
Yeah.
sure? And then I do the
Yes.
same. I have them double check. And then they're pretty much at that. So it just is like almost personalities too. You have to know who you're working with, who you're talking to, what is their personality. I'll have 2 or 3 people in the family, the bride, the groom, maybe the mother. I'll ask them differently. Where are we to get the final consensus? Because I explained to them what will happen if we don't
Yes.
have the correct count. What will
Yes.
happen is we don't have enough seating. We are not putting out seating in the middle of your event. That's not happening. We're also don't want to be in a situation where we're running out of food or running out of whatever. It just doesn't look good, and that's not the experience you or your guests want to have. We're all about a positive, joyful guest experience. We want you to remember how great it was, not that you couldn't have a seat, you know, or
Correct.
that you didn't have a table to sit at. So the way that we avoid that from happening, okay, we know that we're probably going to be over. Where are we going to be? Let's pay for that. Let's pay for 400 chairs, period. And
Yes.
then I work backwards. I'm like, okay, you tell me 3, I'm starting with 4. Okay,
Yes.
I'm telling the vendor you're paying for these extra 100 chairs. Then they're like, oh, okay, that brings the reality in. Oh,
Yes.
okay, we have to pay for, 400. So now we have to add linens, add
Yes.
florals, add
Yes.
all the accents, the flatware, the
Everything.
glassware. You multiply that and you show them that number, it's a reality check. They're like, okay, well, let's scale it down. Let's calm down. And they go back and maybe they get back to the 350. So you have to work backwards because they mean well, but sometimes in all the excitement, they don't realize how far off they've gone. And we're
Yes.
not in a situation where we want anybody to feel like embarrassed or feel like they're apologizing because
Mhm.
someone didn't have a good experience. So I say,
Yes.
let's make sure everyone's taken care of and then we can all go in and relax and then they all agree. So you just have to have those conversations.
Yes. And that is why your experience shines, because
Oh,
this is exactly where we find couples go off the rails. Because on the one
mm-hmm,
hand, they don't want to pay for more than will show up. On the other
mm-hmm,
hand, the embarrassment to the family, where people come in and don't have a place
mm-hmm,
to sit, it's not only embarrassing for those guests, all the other 300 people are witnessing that. And we
yeah,
know that, I mean, our culture in the Caribbean has have the same root with you, is like that is a total embarrassing situation,
it
and
is.
it will spoil all the 100 great things that we did. That one
Mm-hmm,
thing will come and mar the entire experience for the family. And you
mm-hmm.
know how we are. They talk about you for decades to come, and something like that. It doesn't let
It's
go.
true.
So
It's
our
true.
job is to ensure that it doesn't happen. So I have that
Yeah.
same issue with the guest count, because we have
Mm-hmm,
to prepare not only with food, but with staffing and with equipment. And that equation says, I need you to come down to within two or three people
Mm-hmm.
what your guest count is actually going to
Yeah.
be doing some
Mm-hmm.
work. Because, in our community, people don't RSVP.
They don't.
Uh, yeah, but you got to get on the phone and call them and say, well, I didn't hear from you, so I'm so sorry you would miss the event. You kind of suggest that if you don't RSVP, don't bother to come.
Exactly. No, it's true. And people are like, oh my gosh, but that's the situation because we don't want the embarrassment. And then, of course, we're selecting venues that can accommodate, multicultural events, right? So it's like if the capacity is 200, we need it to be 400 and all of that. But we also
Correct.
want to consider like spacing. We don't want it to be so tight that you're uncomfortable, that you feel like you have to, maneuver to get around the tables and the chairs
Yeah,
to work your way to the dance floor. We don't want hazards, we don't want a fire marshal to come and shut us down because people are congregating in the lobby and all of that thing. So it's just like we have to set expectations for our clients, right? Based on our experience, right? We want you to have a good time, but within reason. We have to adhere to the rules of the venue, our vendors, and their requirements. That's why contract review is so important. And we ask a
yeah,
lot of questions with the contract review, right? We meet with the vendors multiple times, but then also, we need to accommodate our guests. We don't want these type of issues. And I just tell the clients in front of their parents, usually, we don't want a situation where people don't have seating. They don't have, they're not able to come in and enjoy. You've invited them and now they can't even stay and experience it. And they're all like, oh no, we can't have that. So I'm like, okay, with
correct.
that understanding, this is our guest count. We are not going beyond this count. Also, we have to deal sometimes, unfortunately, it's like the elephant in the room, tardiness. You tell people, you tell people 6 p.m. They show up much later, right? I'm like, the event starts and it ends when it ends. Period. And
Yes,
then I've been told by clients, oh my gosh, that's so early, meaning it's 11 p.m. That's early. It's so early, Cheryl. I'm like, well, then you're going to have to pay for extra time, right? But then
that's
also, you're going to have to pay your caterer extra time because they've allotted this amount of time for their staff. And now you
yes,
want them to pay overtime for their staff to pay another two
yes,
hours, to stay another two
yes.
hours or so. So all these things add up, so it can be done, but the communication has to be there so that we're all on the same page.
Fantastic. You know what I heard very clearly from you, and it resonates with me because I've been doing this so long, and I know it's a piece that a lot of people miss. People are always focused on the big things, the florals and the color of the linen, and it's just the aesthetics and that everything's looks so pretty and so on. And they
Yeah.
forget the little details that really could derail you, like people being too tight in a room, can't make their way to the dance
Mm-hmm.
floor, or like we say, people not being accommodated and so on. Little things that
Yes.
people tend not to think about how the effect would be on their day
Mm-hmm.
until a professional like you would bring that to their attention. Because we bring it to their attention and they're like, oh no, that won't happen. I'm like, you know.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
great that you have that experience, you have that know how. And I think what's vitally important to what you said, you have the way to speak to the family because it's
Mm-hmm.
not just the couple. It's always in a
It's
multicultural event, it's always the extended family. And to be able to,
always.
yes, to get all of that and package all of that so everybody can leave saying, wow, that was the event of the century. That's what you're bringing to the table. So I greatly appreciate that about you. And folks, I have experienced this with Cheryl and Lotus Events Management. So from the perspective of on the ground and taking care of these things, I know that what she is saying is what she would do for you and your event. So Cheryl, this time has gone very, very, very quickly.
I know, so fast.
Yes, it's time for us to end, but I'd like you to leave our guests with some parting words from Cheryl,
Mm.
anything that you would like them to know about you.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for watching. It's been an honor for me to be here today. I really enjoyed our conversation. This conversation could literally go on for another hour. There's so many points to make, but it's just critical that you hire an event professional, an experienced wedding planner, experienced caterer like Jillian and Caribbean caterers to manage your event. It really matters. It makes the difference from a successful event to a not so successful event, and being able to go in and have a beautiful, wonderful, stress-free experience to having something that's not so stress-free. But it's really important to know that you have a professional to manage the details. Even like you said, Jillian, the small details, all those logistics make a huge difference in the event experience. So I'm so happy to be here and, to be able to talk to you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being with us. You have brought a lot to the table and given people lots to think about. So, as they call you to figure out how they can get their multicultural event done to their liking, I know you will be there for them. So, thank you for being you, and we appreciate you. We've been talking to Cheryl Yiadom of Lotus Event Management. So, good to see you, Cheryl. Bye
Good to
bye.
see you too. Bye.